Hello and welcome to the first ever Solar Farm Summit live stream. I'm your host, Dan French, executive producer of the Solar Farm Summit. Thrilled that y'all could join us today. I know some of y'all on short notice we didn't do a very good job of marketing this, but we're going to throw a lot at you today. I know some of you, a lot of you, maybe all of you are just here to see the announcing of the 2025 class of finalists for the North American Agrivoltaics Awards. We're super excited. Incredible group. And we're going to preview the upcoming show, the 2025 Solar Farm Summit, coming back to Chicago, but downtown along the lakeshore at McCormick Place, August 4 through 7. So we're going to run through that, show you some fun things and some of the new features and the exhibition floor. Also, where are the hotels and some of those burning questions. On the map or on the screen is kind of some of the things in our ecosystem. We just came off an awesome Virginia Solar Summit. Did another one of those with the Virginia Department of Energy and ASGA we brought on as a co-host for the first time. That was super awesome. And then we're going to introduce the Solar Farm Tours. And I already mentioned the North American Agrivoltaics Awards. I've got my colleague and our producer and recently made education director, Katie Meyer, along with me this morning as well. How do I sound, Katie? And how do you sound? Can you say hello?
Yep, you sound clear to me.
Awesome. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can advance my screen. There's those solar farm tours coming this summer. Seeing is believing. You can already go to the website now and click around and find some of the folks that have opted in. If you have a solar farm that's open for tour, or not just show up, but scheduling in advance is okay. However you kind of have your tours set up is okay. We'd like to hear from you because seeing is believing. It's time to touch and feel this stuff, and it's awesome. And I hope I might see some of y'all at the end of the month in Denver, Colorado. Quick shout out, CCSA. The Community Solar Innovation Summit is coming up June 26th and 7. I know some of y'all will be there. I'll be there. And there's an agrivoltaic session, and there'll be a lot of good folks at this one. Always a good show. And then the big show, the big Brownfield show, EPA's biannual National Brownfields Training Conference, which draws thousands of people, is also coming to Chicago, also at McCormick Place, also almost on the same day. You probably have noticed or heard by now. You can check it out, gobrownfields.org, and learn all about this conference, which is produced by ICMA, and we're happy to be collaborating with during this 2-for-1. So save the dates if you haven't already. August 4 through 7 at McCormick Place. That's it right there along the lakeshore. Beautiful downtown Chicago. You can see the Sears Tower, which has a new name there in the back. But right on the harbor, right along the pedestrian path along the lake. Some of Chicago's best. We are proud to be brought to you again this year by American Farmland Trust, who's had our back from the very beginning, original title sponsor, and stuck with us and helped us build this community and develop all these new opportunities to produce and steward our land from here to the next generation. Okay, quickly, want to just help orient folks. You can find all this on our website, but since it's a new location and we're going downtown and Chicago's a global city, just wanted to kind of quickly walk through a couple of these things because you may be coming to the show differently this year or for the first time. So Chicago's blessed by 2 airports, O'Hare and Midway, you can see, and they're both connected by the CTA. That's the Chicago Transit Authority. So the blue line from O'Hare, the orange line from Midway. And there's also many different ways to drive to McCormick Place. It's right on the lake, and it's kind of off the highways, but there's really good roads that get down to McCormick Place because it is North America's largest conference center, and it's set up for large crowds. And there's big parking lots. Some of those structures are kind of dated and musty, but there's lots of them. So you could also be driving in. On the right is just zoomed in. And you can see where we'll be at the Lakeside Center, which I showed you on the last slide, right on the lake, right on the pedestrian way. And there's one of the parking lots. The Grand Concourse will take you to the metro station, which pulls up right there. And I-55 does have the corridor that runs right in. Also along Lakeshore Drive.
And sorry, are we
Oh, please
recording
do.
this? I want to make sure we are recording this today.
Yeah, it's recording, and we're
Cool.
live streaming right now.
Awesome.
Yep,
Perfect.
it'll also
Thanks.
be archived on YouTube. Absolutely. I should have mentioned that at the top. Thank you, Katie. Another key question is, where are the hotels? There's not very many close by, and the Brownfield folks have the block, but Chicago has many options, and you can find that map. Of course, you can do your own mapping, but there's many different transit options. Uh, you can, of course, walk, but the Loop and the biggest hotel cluster is not that far away. And we kind of slid the schedule back. The expo hall will open early. You can join the exhibitors for coffee and fare early, but the educational sessions start a little bit later than they have in past years to allow for that kind of transit and travel time. Restaurants too. I'm still trying to eat my way through Chicago, even though I've lived there for 15 years or so. Here's some of the key transit stations, just quickly. Again, you can come back to this later, but just to help folks, like there's two different systems. There's Metra, which is the big trains, and then CTA, which I mentioned. The northernmost star there, blue star, is the Millennium Park Station. That's a big one. You can get on one of those every 30 minutes. It's less than $4, and there's a stop at McCormick Place. So that's one way to do it. You can rent a bike, you can rent a scooter, you can walk. It's a long walk. There's the water taxi that will drop you by the Shed Aquarium. The CTAs, the red line and the green line have drop offs, so you will have to walk a little bit. And so maybe take a green line train really from anywhere in the loop and just get off the right station there. Or the red line, CTA red line, that 95th and Dan Ryan station's closer to Chinatown. So if you're going to meet somebody on your way back or for dinner at Chinatown, maybe take the red line train. Okay, back just kind of zooming in again. That green line station is the little green star again, just to help orient you. And then the neighborhood map, you can see the same stations highlighted, and Chicago's beautiful neighborhood map. So many and many still very distinct with their own kind of clusters of restaurants and culture. And again, your best bet may be getting an awesome Airbnb in some neighborhood you've always wanted to check out, and then driving to the show or taking an Uber. Okay, digging in now, the show, just super stoked and grateful. All of our cousins at EPA, all the brownfielders. It's always been my favorite show. I'm gonna do a little bio later, but I was born and raised a brownfielder, and we're super excited to be co-locating the expo in one big hall in McCormick Place there with Brownfields 2025. So agrivoltaics and brownfields together. There is no wall as the map looks there. It's kind of zoomed in. It looks like there's a wall. There's not. It's one big free-flowing show, and everybody with a pass to the Brownfield Conference can come to the Solar Farm Summit Expo and vice versa. There will be no security posting up in between, and a lot of things we're going to share. So there's a lot of new kind of features we're leaning in. We can do so much more at McCormick Place, things we wanted to do last year, things we couldn't execute last year, but we'll have all the support and professional companies, by the way, because we're really just Robin riding shotgun to the EPA Batman here, and everything that all the professional conferences can do in the hall. Folks will be doing, like EPA in their neighborhoods, and the different regions will be posting up. And we have a lot of different elements. I kind of want to maybe bring Katie Meyer in now to help me. Our team's been going nuts on this. Be a lot of kind of different elements. We're really going for experiential. There's a dedicated expo day. You see that STEM day on August 7th. It's kind of kids day. There's no programming elsewhere except in the hall. Everybody will be in the hall on Thursday. But the concessions will be in the hall. This isn't a map of the entire hall, actually. Concessions will be kind of off the map to the north, but we're going to be sharing the poster gallery with our brownfield cousins. There'll be some hay bales. There'll be some strawberry plants. Katie, what am I missing?
No, I'll just pick up where you left off. We'll have the charge and chill. It's a meeting space area, the agency neighborhood. And then, as you mentioned, the expo stage, which you can't see on the map right now, but it will be placed in the hall. And can you You're muted too. You're still muted, Dan.
Sorry, carry on. I'm trying to fix something on my computer.
Okay. And then the big part that we're really excited about, we're excited about all these features, although I think he didn't mention solar shops. We're going to have a demo kitchen in the space, and hoping to look, we're going to source some solar food that was, grown in the solar arrays that we are excited to bring that to you. And then jumping down to the AgPV engagement zone. So that's really starting to fill out. Big thanks to our sponsor, Savion, for helping us build out this engagement zone. We're gonna some things there that are maybe a little mysterious. I'm gonna leave them that way for now, just a little sneak preview of what we're gonna do, but it's gonna just be a really great engaging zone for folks to walk through, to learn, especially a lot of the brownfielders that are here for the first time, to have never all of us have had conversations with people about what is agrivoltaics, and this zone is really meant to be a what is agrivoltaics. You can come in without knowing what it is. Although I know they'll pass some folks on the way and figure it out, bits and pieces, but we really want to help guide people from that level of understanding, not understanding anything, to walking away with, wow, like, what do I do next? Or what's my next question? So really trying to help navigate that learning journey, and bringing in some of our land grant universities that have done lots of research. There's an outreach campaign right now, and in communications with various folks to help them bring in their stuff, showcase what they're learning at their sites. So we really would love to have a big presence from all the different regions of research throughout our country. We've got lots of stuff. So we really want to see that. And so that will be a part of that. So those field studies, some sense of career pathways. What can you do in this field? A world tour. I'll hold on to that for now. We have the NAAAs, which is our North American Agrivoltaics Awards, which we're going to get to in a minute, but that's what that NAAA stands for. So we're going to have a showcase of those different nominees or finalists and winners. The Wonder Wall, I'll leave that up for you to wonder about. An arcade showcasing, and I'll just sneak preview if you haven't seen it already, the Scapes team is one of the larger research groups, collaboration of various universities. University of Arizona, Colorado, and University of Illinois, and some, but they put together this amazing game that you can download in your app right now. But we'll have that up in the space. You can charge and chill and play the game and learn it there. But it really helps educate like what agrivoltaics is, what crops, how they respond to solar, shade. We're gonna have a rainfall simulator thanks to our friends at AFT's network. They've got a really great demo trailer that's gonna help folks understand a bit more about soil health. Legoland, more on that when you arrive at the expo. And the solar farm tours launch. Oops, and I think something dropped off there, and I apologize. And now my screen is blocking the note about Acciona Energy being our sponsor, for one of our sponsors for the Student Design Challenge. So, and I think that's probably a good transition to the next thing. So I'll let you jump to that.
Yeah, I can see the logo.
Was there a note next to it? It had a note next to it for the Student Design Challenge, and I just think it got lost in there. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
Acciona was helping with that.
We made one monster deck. That's probably
and I would say one tweak, a little asterisk on that STEM day. STEM is a very familiar term or acronym for folks, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But we're going to actually we're going to add that A into there. You might have seen the A in other acronyms of STEAM, which often stands for art, but for us, it stands for agriculture. So it will be STEAM Day. So just wanted to kind of tweak that. For your future note, you'll understand why there's an A, because this is about energy and ag together. So,
and there's a WNBA game on campus, walkable that night, and it happens to be STEM night at the WNBA. So we're thrilled about that. And also at the 2025 Solar Farm Summit, it also happens to be National Farmers Market Week. So we want to, have solar food there, put the scent in the air, and have people tasting it. As one of my heroes, Joel Salatin, always said, one of the best ways to show people that his way of doing regenerative agriculture works is to show it to them, and the very best way is to put it in their mouth. So keen to do that. And before I move on, just mention a bit about the brownfield audience. It's very a full spectrum. So state, local, and federal folks at all levels. A lot of heroes, we used to call them brownfield heroes. I used to give people buttons that said brownfield hero. They're the ones applying for grants. It's that world of economic development, and a lot of them are doing solar. A lot of them are also those people champions of community gardens in their communities. So it's a big economic development audience, and I've been calling it, one land use love fest on the Chicago Lakeshore. So to me, it all makes sense, and I'll get into some of that, I guess, why. But here's the dual use design challenge for students at all levels. Still time to apply. No pressure to do so. We'll be bringing this back. Had a lot of fun engaging, seeing some of the submissions already, and seeing the work product. I've kind of marked my whole career, with the work product. I'm that footnotes dude, and seeing how the kids have turned out, their own inspirations have been truly inspirational. And by the way, thank you to the Inspire Project, who's helped us get this off the ground. And we were inspired by one of their design competitions at the World Conference last year. So thanks. As I mentioned, still time to submit, but by July 21, you can see at the bottom competing entries even sooner. So if you do want to compete and win and give the judges time, that's coming up in just more than a week. And also posters, going big on posters. And again, you have 3,000-ish brownfielders, local mayors, staffers, economic developers, investors, solar developers, real estate people looking at all these posters. They'll just kind of wander around, and you also have a chance to get into our very limited poster defense session. So we'll be making a little menu, basically, speakers at a certain time and place, and folks will know to meet you at your poster at a certain place, and maybe hear a little elevator pitch and take your questions.
And just a thank you shout out, sorry, to
Please.
Acciona on that previous slide. I apologize. I put the logo on the wrong slide for Acciona sponsoring, helping to provide prizes for the design challenge. So big thanks and shout out to them. And
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
shout out too for our friends at Doral, who helped encouraged a teacher, a school in Indiana, to participate. They brought them on site to the farm, and they saw us, and they're really excited to come. So they'll be there Thursday. So we've got some really awesome work coming in from Indiana, and really excited for you all to see it and support them. They're excited to share it with us too. So that's coming. We'll be putting that all live too in a few weeks as well. So next Wednesday is that deadline for that competition. And then you can turn it in later if you still want to showcase but not want to compete. And it's all ages, kindergarten through post-secondary. So big span.
Yeah, thank you. Our education director and Thriving. It's great to see her build the bridge, her and her team build the bridge to the next generation. And it is all about the future of farming. So thank you, Katie, and thank you to our sponsors. I can't believe I forgot the prizes. We also have some other sponsors coming in to form a travel scholarship, so we'll be able to turn that up this year. It's been very limited in the past, given a lot of discounted and free passes away. But thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks again to US EPA, President Trump and the administration, who we wouldn't be doing this without them. And we also slashed our ticket prices, you probably saw. So there's even more discounted passes for students and veterans and farmers. You got to buy your own food, or go have lunch off campus is fine too. It's a show to network and learn. We take them both very seriously. But thanks, we really couldn't be going to this next level without it. So let me just tick-tock through the schedule. I know a lot of folks are waiting, and the audience is going to drop off after we announce the finalists for the NAAAs. But so 4 days this year. Monday is the boot up day, but leaning all the way in, it's forum day. 3 flavors, so researchers, farmers, and policy. They'll be going kind of at the same time. And there's a more detailed schedule on the website. Like the farmers is actually split. We'll have AFT leading some farmers in some more directed programming, and then we're going to back it up and just do kind of an open forum, not free for all, but free flowing between kind of a different set of farmers on stage, and taking audience questions. Big policy forum. I know we all want to wrap our arms around that. That was a big hit last year, that breakout. And then super stoked at 4 p.m. We're going to have a world premiere, a documentary premiere. I don't even know if I can mention anything about it at this moment in time, not to build up too much suspense, but we're super stoked and going to put it in the big theater. So there is a theater in the Lake West building that can seat thousands. So really stoked to do that. There will be a little stage too. We'll be running short films and documentaries throughout the conference, again in collaboration with our brownfield friends, and encourage folks to go check out some of the incredible on the ground, boots on the ground, community level work that folks have done to defeat pollution in their communities and eliminate negatives on the landscape and replace it with positives. Not unlike agrivoltaics, accentuating the best on more on top of the best. All right. Anyway, then anchoring Monday, the NAAA's ceremony and reception again in the big theater, following the documentary. And then a big dinner break, and there will be an after-hours event. You will find me at the bar somewhere. TBD. Tuesday is the big program day, the expo. Here's one of the differences. Tuesday is kind of the program day because there's no expo hall. Excuse me, you'll notice at the bottom, it doesn't open until the evening when us and our brownfield cousins all open the hall at the same time. We have a big first opening celebration with drinks. We'll be clinking glasses and high-fiving at the end of Tuesday. But Tuesday is the roll the sleeves up, dig into the sessions day. We'll have slightly less programming, but it's power-packed and still somewhat coming together, but you'll start to see featured speakers and sessions very soon. Wednesday, everything is open. The hall is open. The program will be rocking, and all of our brownfield folks will be running and gunning too. So this will be peak crowd. We're not sure, projecting somewhere 3,000-4,000+. We'll just have to see. We're ahead in our registrations. The brownfielders are ahead in their registrations. Brownfields, if you don't know, has always been nonpartisan, 99-0 in the Senate. Agrivoltaics is emerging as in the same lane, and we're quite proud to throw it all together in the beating heart of North America, Chicago. So be a lot of great vibes in the room on Wednesday in the big hall and spilling out along the lakeshore. We'll be doing sunrise yoga again. There'll be runs along the lake, more than one this year, because it is some of the most beautiful built environment that you'll ever see. The longest unobstructed lake in the world, Lake Michigan. Okay, and then Thursday, wrapping up the preview here is Expo Day. Family Day, STEM Day, Kids Day. We'll have some high school kids running around, some other busloads of kids we'll see. The Design Challenge Awards will be that day. There will be sessions on the floor. The expo hall stages will be running ours and our brownfielders. And they'll be talking about PFAS and soil contamination and some of those things on that stage. I'm on the local planning committee and helping them shape some of those sessions. And then we'll have one big closing plenary and reception and party. The expo will close, and then we'll have the big after party. Katie, did I miss anything?
We do plan to have some after-hour fun on Tuesday night and Wednesday night. More details coming soon, but we've got some good stuff in the works.
Yeah, kind of classing it up a level there, if I can say. We always like to have fun, but yeah, Chicago has so many incredible venues, and the brownfielders go big too. So I kind of stole a lot of my recipe from them, if I can just tip my cap, going big on the substance and big on the social piece. And we can do both. Just pace yourselves and hydrate. Take those power eye naps. I have an eye pillow. I take it seriously. Okay. North American Agrivoltaics Awards, here it is, co-hosted in collaboration again this year with NRAL, American Farmland Trust, and ASGA, three of the best. Thank you for your support, their personal time. Some of them should be winning, but for ethical reasons, they cannot be nominated, and I won't mention them. You know who they are. But thank you, these three organizations. Personally and professionally, I'm in their debt. So thank you. It's gonna wrap that Monday, August 4th in the theater. We'll be revealing the winners live. And the brownfielders can sneak into that. We're going to have quite a big show this year. We didn't know what to expect when we kicked it off last year. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, and we had a lot of fun that night. All right, Katie, are they ready? Wow, we have pretty good crowd still. Okay. Are we ready to do this? Da-da-da. I feel like we need a drum roll or.
Sorry, before we switch, Kat, do you want to jump into the questions really quick and just answer?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Change gears. Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so excited. I'm gonna power right through. So, a question about who is invited to present posters. How do we get a poster in the conference if we wanted to present one? Well, there's a form on the website.
I'll
Yep.
drop the link. Yep.
Drop a link, please. Yeah. And come one, come all from anywhere in the world. Uh, we we uh, we will take a poster from Antarctica if you've got one, from space. And you don't have to be present to display, and there is no cost. We will print your poster and put it up at our expense. But if you can make it, we would love for you to join this big interdisciplinary land use love fest. And then I see a question about exhibiting. My friend, Mr. Carlos Class. Yes, sir. We would love to have you post up in the expo. The exhibition is open and we are taking reservations. We'll expand if we have to. And we're thrilled to have homegrown Virginia-made solar panels coming online in the fourth quarter of this year with an agrivoltaics line and a recycling line. I will get back to the Virginia story after the NAAAs. I'm going to punish if you all dare to stick around after we're done announcing the finalists. I'm going to power through maybe 100 slides, more than 100, and do a lot of storytelling. But I'll digress. Katie, was that all the questions? Are they hiding? I'm not
I
so
think
good at
that's
this, y'all.
it. Good to
Good.
see you, Mr. Class.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us today. Uh, Still see my screen?
Yes, I
Okay,
see the
great.
finalists teasing us. You're teasing us with the finalists.
Hmm. I'm still drinking coffee. My cousin got married this weekend in Nashville. Cole and Delaney, congratulations. The future is bright. And I know that because I've seen all these incredible submissions. Thank you to everyone who nominated. Some folks, some projects were nominated more than once, and the committee had its work cut out. And we broke some of the rules to put out just some of the best stuff that I've ever seen. So thank you, and thank you to the all the nominees and finalists, everyone who's doing this work. You were all worthy, and I'm really privileged now to showcase the solar farm finalists for 2025. The Agrivoltaic Testing Grounds at CSU, Let Us Shine, Madison Fields, Native Hill Farms Mobile Agrivoltaics, y'all. Ring Road, Rutgers University Agrivoltaics Program, and Spaces of Opportunity. We really were split in the committee and had to include all of these. And how this is going to work is you'll be able to go to the website after the call. Well, we're going to take a coffee break. But Katie, the former teacher, was insistent that we needed to keep y'all's attention for all the slides I'm going to punish you with, all the substance to follow. So we're going to open the vote by the close of business day, but you'll be able to read all these incredible stories, get their narrative, get links to learn all about these great solar farms kind of scattered all across the country and kind of doing their own amazing things.
Yep, I will publish all the information at the end of the call so you can start. There's a lot of great stories to read, so please do that. I'm just withholding it right now so you can stick with us for Dan's slides because I think that's worth it too. So sorry, and then go to read all these. Not like you have anything to do today. It's just a Wednesday, but you could.
We got weeks to vote, and it'll take that time. But we do hope that you you really find the precious moments to read these stories and click through the links, those slippery slopes of substance, I like to say, because seeing is believing, as we say for the solar farm tours. And this stuff is real. All right, solar farmer. Hello, Chad Higgins, Joe Jakowski, back again, Julie Burden, Paul Knowlton, as well as the husband and wife team, Sarah Mosier and Kyle Harris. Garris. Oh, why did I say Harris? Garris. Yes, Garris. Mr. Garris. Congratulations, y'all. Solar Ecosystem of the Year, Black Bear in Virginia, Honeysuckle Solar, Mockingbird Solar, and the Shortgrass Ecovoltaic Research Project. We had some very fine submissions for this category, and I will say the competition is getting stiffer for ecosystems. Solar Eco Steward, Allison Wickham. Oregon National Laboratory, their solar soil health research team as a team. Jessica Fox, Mike Kiernan, Father B back again, and Walter Liebrick. Congratulations. Big brains, bigger hearts. Okay, another big category. I wonder who will drop off after this. This one, the competition's also getting intense in this category. Solar Ranch of the Year: Blue Jay Solar and Storage, Burgundy Brook Farm, Crystal Hill Solar, High Point Solar Farm, Peacock Solar, and SunSmart Ames Community Solar Farm. All different, all awesome. Congratulations. The future of solar ranching is brighter than ever. Another coveted category, emerging as a coveted category. A lot of hooting and hollering for this one. Solar Rancher of 2025. The finalists are Mr. Daniel Dodderer, Eli Valdez, the team over at Silicon Ranch, Jim Maloney and Jack Mason, J.R. Howard and family, J.R. Howard and company, Julie Bishop, and the dynamic duo down in Virginia, Marcus and Jess Gray. Congratulations. All right, Ag PV plan. Also just an abundance of ideas this year. Here are the finalists. Virginia coming strong again, the community farm at Roundabout Meadows, the Denver Botanical Gardens, Detroit's locally sited utility scale solar project, Plains Road, UW-Madison, Kagansa. Is that how you say that?
I think
Katie
it's
went to Marquette.
Kaganza.
Kagansa. And the Washington State University Sunrise Research Orchard. Congrats. All right. And I think this is last, certainly not least. And there will be other awards. For example, the Leadership Award, which Senator Chuck Grassley won last year. But the committee selects those. This will be the last category with which the public will have a say. And then we blend the vote to determine the winners, blend the committee's votes to determine the winners. The public has the most say, though, so your vote matters, and you can help elevate and celebrate these champions. But congratulations to this year's finalists: Ian Ward, Lexi Hain, Lucy Bullock-Seeger, Peter Schmidt, and Sarah Mosier. All champions in their own right, and having a tremendous impact and creating big ripples far beyond themselves and their individual projects and companies and organizations. So each of these folks inspire me, and can't wait for you to read their stories on the website and learn more about their work, share it with others, and hopefully be inspired, maybe emulate them. That's the whole point of this. To elevate and celebrate our brightest lights. So proud of this group, and just overwhelmed by how quickly all this has come together in the last 4 or 5 years since we first started talking about doing all this. Wow. Katie, any final thoughts about the NAAAs? That's the website right there, agrivoltaicsawards.com. We'll go big after the World Documentary premiere Monday, August 4 at McCormick Place. What's the name of the theater? I always get the theaters wrong.
The Airy Crown Theater.
The Airy Crown Theater. Thank you. Too many places, too many faces. Should I see if anyone has a question about that? No?
I don't see any questions.
Great. Well, that was the preview. We're getting in now to the meat of the webinar, and I'm going to make full use of the time today. Oh, I better stretch my legs a little bit and shift gears. So this is our roadmap. We just did number 1. That was our introduction, preview SFS25 and AAA. You were there. And now I'm gonna let it rip if I can, and give you a lot of the background. A little bit about me too, which I usually don't do. But people ask, and I figure it's time to explain, or Katie convinced me. And maybe this big macro that I do, solar, I just kind of do on the side. It's a passion project, and maybe where I'm coming from, and explaining very clearly this brownfield nexus will help kind of put things into context for some of y'all who may be wondering. And I'll get all the way through our stack of emergencies if I can. So trigger warning, I will be getting into some sensitive places. I'm going to be showing a lot of data. I'm going to be going very quickly, but throwing some pretty fastballs right at the heart. So feel free to bounce. And my goal is not to stress, but to illuminate. All right, so this is a little bit about me. I'm really not going to dwell on this, but Dan French, I practice something called functionalism. I'm a nonpartisan person. I care deeply about this nation, America. It's done a lot for me, trying to pay it back. And a lot of great Americans who were models for me. And I believe in that whole shiny city on the hill thing. And we made a difference to a world that was facing, scarcity at great costs to many of the members in the human tribe, but we're still making a difference in the world. And as America goes, so goes the whole planet. And we are still a little planet in a bottle, y'all. So I'm living in that nexus between energy, economy, and environment. I was a lawyer, trained economist, kind of a technologist, and today mostly like a macro strategist, I guess you would call, which really just means I have to read everything. But soft background on me, and I moved around a little bit, but always in rural communities, farm and coal towns, farm kid, which really just means labor. And I definitely can't call me a farmer, more of like we were just big gardeners. And I've worked on a lot of farms, detasseled a lot of corn, shoveled a lot of shit, if I could say. We had a little horse barn there in Spring Tucky when I lived north of Springfield, Illinois. Did a lot of fishing too. And my uncle was a charter fisherman, so did a lot of summers down in Florida. Cleaned a lot of guts. But I guess I'm a strategist for strategists, pretty shy. You see my work in the work of others, typically. But I have an interdisciplinary approach, and I guess this is the most important part. All my work is really all industrial and commercial. So brownfields really means everything. I've done Superfund. I've dealt with nuclear waste, army bases, donations, conservations, federal land, gas stations. Sold a lot of gas stations for BP. I was in-house at BP before we blew up the Gulf of Mexico. Good times. And again, I'll just stress nonpartisan. And also important for me to point out that I don't have any financial stakes in solar development myself. I'll be on the conferences and the micro consulting boutique I have. I'm not making my bones in this business, and try to approach it as objectively as I can. Okay, I know we're running out of time, and I got a lot of ground to cover. So just want to mention, I guess, to start, the world is a brownfield. 300 years of intense industrial activity has degraded the physical conditions of the planet Earth at really an immeasurable scale. We don't really know. I know there's some sites with sinking pollution that's down in the bedrock, fractured bedrock, and it's not gonna. We're gonna need Star Trek teleporters and $1 trillion to get it truly clean. There's a lot of waste that's entombed out there. As long as it's entombed and contained and not damaging natural resources or humans, we have made that brownfield bargain. But the damage has begun almost from the very beginning. And I'm going to start now. If you were at the very first Solar Farm Summit or some other conferences, I slip this in sometime. This is my favorite chart. This is a very, very accurate lead pollution chart that goes back thousands of years. Well, how can that be? Well, even the gentleman on the left there, with their simple technology, if you smelt heavy metals, it captures in the high atmosphere. That effluent captures in the high atmosphere, and then it collects at the poles. And so when we started doing those ice core samples, digging, so many thousands of feet straight into the ice, guess what? We got those. That's where a lot of that climate modeling comes from, and also trace pollution. So we have we know how much lead and iron the Romans were smelting. And so that's the first star on the left, is kind of the peak of the Roman super Mediterranean economy. We really underestimate how much economic activity there was. Also from their landfills, we know how much pottery they made. We know when Rome fell, you see it drop off very quickly there in the 5th century. That was when Rome collapsed. The size of bowls also shrunk by as much as a third in some places. The great meat markets collapsed. But smelting collapsed, and it actually wasn't, it took us 1,000 years, basically, the star on the right, to exceed that peak again and hold it. So it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution, it wasn't until the 18th century when we retook that global smelting level. And anyway, there's pollution there's been pollution piling up for thousands of years. That's the other point. What about the world's first brownfield? Well, this is the Fertile Crescent, the cradle of civilization. The lentils and barley were growing so naturally and abundant, we thought it would be a good idea to just sit down. That's what it looked like, but we did turn it into the world's first brownfield. 90% of rainfall in dry lands evaporates right back into the atmosphere, and in this particular place, the water table is shallow. The soil probably wasn't that great to start, and we invented irrigation, but the simple dikes trapped salt behind the soils, and over time the salinity increased. The yields started to decrease, and the cradle of civilization, ancient Sumer, was eventually conquered. They hit a population peak, and that's what it looks like today. That's Syria outside Idlib. Precious little water, doing what they can. But in 2022, here we are, thousands of years later, and we know this story. The very dusty, hot, and arid, and increasingly hot Middle East, plagued by dust storms. This is just one from 2022, and you can see it just kind of hung over Iraq for a couple days. But we know this story as Americans, right? And not a new story or an old story, an ever-present story. This American Dust Bowl. Probably don't have to tell you all about this. You learned about it in school, but did it all happen in a single day? No, it was a collection of policy. It built up. And then we had Black Sunday. That's what it looked like. So this was our response. The Soil Erosion Service was formed right after, led by Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett there, second from the left, putting in the nation's first watershed project there in Wisconsin. Came at a pretty good time in the Depression. We lost tens of millions of acres. We had millions of men sitting around. So they started the Soil Erosion Service, which is now the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And again, put a lot of folks to work. I'm really going to start to go fast now. This is beautiful prairie strips, but I love this quote from Mr. Bennett. One of the few things that I'll bother to read. If we are bold in our thinking, courageous in accepting new ideas, and willing to work with instead of against our land, we shall find in conservation farming an avenue to the greatest food production the world has ever known, not only for the war, World War II, but the peace that is to follow. I think he's right. He's still right about that, but we're still dealing with this. So this was a couple weeks ago, just outside Chicago. My aunt lives in New Lenox, and we had a flash dust bowl, y'all. You probably saw this on the news. Flashback a couple years. It was pretty wet out west where the dust bowl was, but here in the Midwest, I'm here in Chicago and Wisconsin, we had pretty dry temperatures. It's happening every year, but we had a flash drought downstate where I went to high school, May 1st, 2023, created blackout conditions, and 7 people were killed. Big car pileup. Friend of a friend was injured in this accident, and the Illinois State Police determined that it was due to excess dirt blowing from farm fields across the highway, which led to zero visibility. People didn't slow down fast enough, and the results are inevitable. And just pointing out, not blaming really anyone. It's just not enough rain at the wrong time. And so, we're still counting on the rains or people die. So that's where we are, even though it's 2025. Quickly, speaking of the NRCS, here's a kind of poor quality chart of the soil organic carbon in our soils, kind of where it is. We're very blessed in North America to have, the best soil quality and quantity in the world, intersected by the great Mississippi River, by the way. But UN estimates, 1/3 of soils have already been eroded. That's some older report, but again, this is not a new story. This is from my childhood. Live Aid, Ethiopia, famine, drought had really hit Africa, but it was back in 2011. It was back in 2022, and more intense, by the way. Our ability to respond is better, but this is that long-term story of desertification in Africa, right? There's Lake Chad, or there was Lake Chad. Lake Chad is down 90% since the 1960s. Serious problem for Nigeria. Overexploitation, but it's not a story exclusive to Africa. There's desertification in Asia. There's the Aral Sea. Again, there was the Aral Sea. So the deserts are on the march. Here you can see global dryland distribution, the World Atlas of Desertification, or the Aridity Index, the other AI, the lesser known AI that I've been keen on most of my career. So if we average from 1981 to 2010, our dryland average was 32.7%. You'll notice over on the left. More recently, up to 40.6%. So the deserts are on the march. 77.6% of the planet is drier. and much more recent drying. Some places are getting wetter, again, like the blessed breadbasket of America, you may notice. But 1/3 of global aquifers are in distress. 21 of 37 of the largest aquifers, no bueno. Again, the world's lakes, most of the world's lakes, significant water losses. And the consequences, even if you're not a botanist, you probably can use your imagination. If we dry out, we die out. That's basically what's happening. And if we lose our water, it's the wrong kind of slippery slope to land degradation and real ecosystem breakdown. So I just love this story from Forbes. The future is dry, but that's why soil is the new sexy science. Whatever you think about climate change, the world is drying out, whatever the reason, and and we got to deal with it. Farmers, of course, as we know, already are, and we'll get to that. But also, just love this fact. 560 gigatons of soil carbon is what we're talking about, and that's actually 3 out of every 4 gigatons on the land. So there's more in the oceans, right? But the soil on the earth has 3x more carbon than all the living things, all the flora and fauna, at least according to the Ecological Society of America. And I know you can find that. So the deserts are not just on the march, they're winning, and the whole planet is polluted. That's what I mean by the world is a brownfield. We've been at this a long time, the whole time. And here we are now in a post-industrial America that is rusty. EPA, we've been 30, 40 years of brownfield redevelopment and cut a lot of ribbons and been to a lot of, put a lot of golden shovels in the dirt. But EPA still estimates there's 450,000 brownfields scattered across the United States. Many of them were in small and rural towns, those 1 and 2 factory towns, which now have 1 or 2 large brownfields. And America's also sick. I won't mention this. We'll get right back to it. I won't linger on cancer, though, except to say cancer clusters. All right, rural emergency. We're actually going to end with the agriculture and energy emergencies. Bridging from here to there is the rural emergency, so America under distress. And I'll just run through some sad charts now. If I can, the year 2000 marked numerous inflection points for the United States. There you can see poverty rates kind of hitting a bottom and trending upwards ever since. Some of these are out of date, but I wanted to stick to the same series. Suicide rates also ticking up. In fact, suicide rates now are at generational highs. You got to go all the way back to the peak anxiety of World War II to find more suicides than we have in the United States right now. This is a little out of date, but I want to draw your attention to this deaths of despair work, which was some joint effort in Congress, and you can definitely Google for this and find this. There's a whole body of work. But something, again, has happened at the turn of the millennium. Here you can see these deaths of despair, not just suicide, drugs, alcohol, other things, broken out by demographic, and it's our young people. 25 to 34, 35 to 44, who've experienced the greatest increase. So something's happening. There's always been an urban and rural divide, but it's gotten worse. Here you can see the suicide rates in rural America, 25% higher than those in urban areas, and getting worse as you track from time from left to right to the bottom. Here you can see us broken out against the other G7 countries, the most developed nations, and here we are lagging. We broke away, and we've been lagging ever since. And another just demographic breakout on the right, you can see that it's been white folks actually who've led in unintentional drug overdoses. So leading this a very unfortunate category of deaths of despair. So the young folks, white folks, rich folks, poor folks, rural folks, all folks, the United States lagging in the worst way. The Economist called it, American exceptionalism, to turn a phrase, the wrong kind of American exceptionalism. You may have heard me, if you've heard me speak before, I talk a lot about American exceptionalism, and this isn't what we're going for. Everybody broke down in the pandemic, but whereas most of the developed world has rebounded, the United States has not rebounded so well. We've stabilized. This a little out of date. We have bounced our life expectancy, but not as much as we should have. So here's just a geographic distribution of this deaths of despair by these fine folks at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, just so we can Kind of overlay very quickly the Distressed Communities Index, which I like to refer to often. It's updated regularly, and this uses county level data to map out our distressed and at-risk communities, where only 25% of all the jobs created since the Great Recession have been available. So 75% of jobs are available in cities, in our dense places, leaving very much less for everyone else. And these communities have experienced net zero business formation since the dot-com crash, since again the millennium. Um, and if you're thinking, oh, these are rural places, flyover territory, there's not very many people, maybe that's just the problem. Actually, no, it's about a third of America. So almost 115 million Americans are living in distressed communities or at-risk communities all across the country in every state. And so this slide, I won't get into this. I've seen you use this elsewhere, but this kind of sums up a lot of my life's work, or a certain lane of it. Troubleshooting rural development. This isn't a problem everywhere, but this is kind of the mix and match menu. Some places they need access to local food, electricity, and transit infrastructure. Others need more tax revenue and schools. Some are really plagued by substance abuse and poverty. Others, it's affordable housing. So tackling these challenges, we need real answers to these problems. We need to match these troubles to real solutions. Because we have some of these problems are long term. This is not a new story, and I'm bridging now into the agricultural emergency, which is in the news again, as well. It's always in the news, but not a new story. As I love this quote from President Eisenhower, General Eisenhower: "Farming looks mighty easy when your plow is a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from a cornfield." So let's do a little bit more history with some recent data. So this is the most recent census of agriculture that USDA prepares every 5 years. This is the most recent one, relatively fresh data. And I just want you to notice that the number of farms in the US has fallen now. You got to go all the way back to basically when Abraham Lincoln was president. Less than 2 million farms. And less land, about 900 million acres now. And we're down 10% in the last decade. So the last two censuses, from 2012 to 2022, 10% of farms off the top. And this has happened even though per capita spending in the United States has reached an all-time high. So despite the pandemic and despite inflation, people are buying food. There it is, food away from home even. Restaurant eating, adjusted for inflation, is up. The long story is one of actually success. Farmers are trapped by success. We have the most productive humans ever in existence working in the fields today, and the more they produce, the lower prices. The more technology, the lower prices. To individually compete, they produce more, but that puts more on markets, right? If they all do the same, that's why going back to the last century, certainly since the Green Revolution, we've had steadily declining steady deflation in agricultural prices, even as world population has gotten not just to 7 billion, but now 8 billion people. Productivity is the reason why. This is total outputs and inputs. And you can see even with inputs holding steady, productivity has really been a driving force to, again, make the farmers we have today the most productive humans ever. But they're not getting that farm dollar. This is the catch. The farm share, less than 16 cents. And you can kind of see how the different pieces, food processing, this and that, kind of chip away. We have the global food vending machine, I like to joke. And so we're kind of trapped. And I want to now get into this question. Let's see if we can think about this. How can we save farms and raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices? So we just squashed food prices recently, right? Inflation is bad. If you gave me a magic wand, I would just raise food prices. Everyone would want to farm again, and problem solved. The farming would be cool again, and the kids would go back to the land and go back home. And of course, we know, unfortunately, the rest of civilization couldn't stand for that. So it's kind of a quandary, isn't it? Well, how have we made it so far? Well, folks who grew up in farming communities know we do a lot of other things. We hustle, we innovate, and we adapt. We'll farm in the dirt with spoons if it'll sell, if we can put that on a label and sell it at a higher price at Whole Foods, or probably, we're going to take that job. So off-farm work has exploded. right? About 40% of farmers are working 200 or more days off the farm in the last census. And that's happening in almost all counties. So 93% of counties in the United States, a third of its farm labor is working off the farm because they have to. If you don't go off the farm, maybe you can bring folks to the farm. This is agritourism by county. And I'm happy to report this is big business, over $1 billion now, and grew at quite a clip, census to census, double digits, 12.7% over 2017. Paying for that experience or that food, as I mentioned, putting it in folks' mouth. They love farm. Everyone loves farm to table. Those are good eats, y'all. And this is some of our strongest growth in direct farm sales, 25% versus the previous census, and a real annual growth rate of 4.6%, which ain't bad at all. And a lot of it is going to direct to retail outlets, but also institutions, school buying, buy local, all those kind of programs are lifeblood to farmers to capture more of that farm dollar. So it does depend on what you buy, right? So if you're if you're buying field grown tomatoes, expect, or on average, general estimating 37% of what you're paying for is going to that farmer. So it's higher than the average. Or strawberries. I like strawberries. They're getting almost half. And that's led to investment in greenhouses. So we can expand fruit and veggie production, some of these higher margin crops. If we invest, controlled environment agriculture has been worth the money. So we can see it, really exploding in recent decades, and even more so recently. It's much more water efficient, more upfront costs. But you can see the tomato story in the United States. Basically, all the growth in tomatoes, imported tomatoes, has been from greenhouses, with infield in decline, actually, most recently. So greenhouses pencil, though they cost and take more people, more inputs, more services, more insurance, someone to build the thing. And so that's been the other thing that's worked. It's not related to food. It's an explosion in support services. The farms that remain, they're bigger, they need more, they're doing more, and that creates jobs. But it's also more expensive. And again, that's part of the trap, the unvirtuous circle. Get bigger, produce more, hire more, everything costs more. And so inflation can just hurt you in other ways. And depending on what business you're in, labor, land, fertilizer, you're paying more or less for that. Electricity, again, depending on what business you're in exactly, you're paying more or less, but it can be a big expense. In Virginia, where I am often, I deeply love, we got a lot of poultry down there, and that can take up a lot of electricity depending on how you're doing it. And this is data, but I want to stick with the USDA series. You can find better stuff. It's mostly true, just as a general precept. Energy consumption in our agricultural system has been increasing. Here you can see kind of a bigger split. A third is still at home, if we're talking about particularly electricity. But our just-in-time food delivery system is very energy intensive. And that can be a problem if we have an energy emergency. So shifting into that now, which President Trump has put at the top of his board, unleashing American energy. You probably saw this one of the first things he did, day one, January 20, declaring a national emergency by executive action. What's this all about? Well, it's about prices. It's about a lot of things. Let me try to step through that now. Throwing a lot at y'all today. Brace yourselves. So this is residential prices. Big explosion after the pandemic, and the biggest jump since 1981. Most people have an electricity bill, and this really mattered. And adjusting for inflation, the pandemic caused the greatest energy spend for U.S. consumers in history, actually. Prices since then have alleviated for the wholesale market, but those retail prices are sticky. We have a fragmented electric grid. Depending on where you are, you're going to pay kind of more or less. Down in Texas versus the Northeast, quite a spread, because we've also had this supply boom. So prices have maybe been lower than they should because of all the natural gas. This is what the fracking boom kind of looked like before and after from space. One of my favorite slides. You can see the Dakotas there. dark kind of cowboy nights, counting the stars, lit up like Chicago before and after. And another one of my favorite slides, being an old oil and gas guy, they told us, the world was running out and peak oil was real. The resource wars had begun, and my friends were out in those deserts dying for oil. Um, by 2017, though, which is when they produced this, where the star is, we were just about to catch up to Saudi Arabia. And we were thinking by 2025, we might have US production up to maybe 9 million barrels a day. Whoops, wrong way. But of course, by 2023, we had hit almost 13 million barrels. And this year, we hit 13.5 million barrels per day. So way ahead of schedule, the biggest oil boom of all time. And almost immediately, we became a net natural gas exporter back in 2017. And again, really good thing because we've had this demand boom. I can't imagine where prices would be because of this guy, Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, because each one of those chips is pulling 700 watts, and that's as much as an average US home, 700 watts. It actually all started with this guy, started the EV race and a battery race, a lot of competition, and it had the good folks at DOE thinking very much about the future forecast of energy demand, of electricity demand, which had been kind of lulled us to sleep. We hadn't had much electricity demand. Conservation technology had played a huge part since the oil shocks in the 70s. Great story there, held net demand down. But with all those EVs and maybe batteries, the Solar Future Study was starting to think like, ooh, where could we be, especially if we wanted to trade out coal and natural gas and go to an all renewable grid. And this was quite, shocking and not made waves, but raised eyebrows, thinking, wow, in the decarb E scenario, we might get 40% demand, or we might get 6.7 terawatt hours of demand by 2035. But that was, of course, before AI. This study was published September 2021. So we kind of know what's happened. Now I'm really going to lean into Virginia a little bit as the data center capital of the world. There you can see Northern Virginia at the top of the heap of data center clusters by capacity. Also notice though, about halfway down the page, Southern Virginia makes the list all on its own. So Virginia really is the beating digital heart of our global world. Here you can see a cluster by size. There's that mega cluster in Virginia. Here I'll just show you very quickly a recent report, Prince William County, just to show how much is zoned but not built. So the queue is quite long indeed. When will the data center development boom really ever end? I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of things will fall out. But we've got a long way to go indeed because the applications are coming quite fast and furious, and everyone's integrating this almost straight away. The internet is already built, so it gets to piggyback. Everyone's forecasts are going up. Here's FERC very recently, adding 128 gigawatts to their forecasts. JLARC, special legislative committee put together in Virginia to study this issue, which Virginia cares about maybe more than anyone else. In the unconstrained demand scenario where they just kind of let those data center permits run and get fulfilled, we're talking about maybe triple the demand in Virginia for watts by 2040. This is Dominion Energy's most recent quarterly report, or the first one from the year, maybe a little out of date, but they revised up just from their July 2024 report to the December quarterly. They added 19 gigawatts, up 80%, 88% of capacity. Some of this was paperwork. They pulled forward some of that future demand. But recent, dramatic, substantial, and serious demand revisions upward for electricity in the United States. Virginia, again, just to use as a proxy, pretty nice blend. Got some nuclear energy, a leader there. At the Virginia Solar Summit, we actually had a session on fusion. We're quite proud of our history of innovation for fission and soon, hopefully, fusion. But it was natural gas that really killed coal in Virginia, brought on a lot of natural gas, and it makes up the lion's share, like a lot of countries. It's brought emissions down. As I said, every natural gas plant we turn on brings emissions down. So that's a good thing. But Virginia doesn't have its own natural gas. It had some coal bed methane. some of those legacy minefields, but that's kind of in terminal decline. The fracking boom has mostly missed Virginia, which is not good news because our demand is growing as fast or faster as most places, and is actually now, as of the most recent report, 2023, Virginia has surpassed California as the top energy importing state. Here you can see just the mix from EIA, the Energy Information Agency, of top exporters of electricity and top recipients. And there you can see again, Virginia at the top. Thank you, Pennsylvania. And so Virginia is importing electricity, and it's using mostly natural gas to create the electricity that it is producing intrastate. And so it really cares a lot about this number. Like a lot of folks, we're watching now Henry Hub. Is it more important than WTI or Brent crude oil? Maybe it will be, as for some of the global significance that we'll see. But the price is going up. So this is a little out of date. Should have updated this slide before this webinar. I apologize. But back in March 22, we were at 422, and Dominion had to raise the base rate for the first time since 1992. So energy inflation is real. Let's look at this next phase of the global energy game. Is natural gas the new norm? Well, it's certainly like leading the deal flow in the White House. Here you can see Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba from Japan meeting with President Trump recently, who is very interested in alleviating our trade imbalance by selling U.S. natural gas overseas. And Prime Minister Ishiba here is one of many who have come and very interested in buying from us. Why? Why? Because of the boom, because of domestic abundance, we now have and have had the cheapest U.S. natural gas in the world. So people in Europe, consumers in Asia are spending often triple the price. And so there's a huge incentive, economic incentive, to capture that arbitrage, that spread between the U.S. and the rest of the world. And that's why we've been building these liquefied natural gas export terminals and building our export capacity. And as soon as we started to, I mentioned the very first facilities we brought online, basically, we became a net exporter. And at the beginning of President Trump's first administration, right before he visited Poland for the first time, the very first LNG export ship from the United States arrived in a Polish harbor. And you've seen how much export capacity we've added in the intervening years. And so it's not all bad news. The United States is now the largest exporter of natural gas in the world, and you can see the exponential slope of the curve on the left. And that's not so good for China, I suppose, or it is good news actually for all of our global customers. China would, by the way, is number one. They're the largest LNG importer. It wasn't good news for Russia, who used to be the largest LNG exporter in the world until very recently. But we have surpassed them, Australia, and also Qatar. So a lot more coming in the queue too. So capacity additions, we're building more capacity, and there's more import capacity that's coming online around the world. And quickly looking at projects that are being constructed. So we could go pull, for permit applications and prognosticate about the future, but the projects you see here are in the queue, and these are the decision points that planners around the world are seeing through. And that's all been great, but it's kind of the end of the beginning with natural gas. And this is the CEO of NextEra, Mr. John Ketchum, who was at CERAWeek earlier this year. And they've built as much, I think, more natural gas than anyone else in the United States in recent decades. And he was noticing that the last gas-fired facility they built in 2022 cost $785 per kilowatt. But if they wanted to do it today, it's more like $2,400. So triple the price because everybody's kind of getting in the queue now, and it's being adopted around the world and so on. So the boom is on. To get your hands on a natural gas turbine and actually get it built across the market, you're really looking at 2030 or later. So you're going to have to get in line and wait if you want to get into the natural gas game now. What else can we do? Well, there's a lot of things we can do. As our very smart audience knows, wind, solar, nuclear, it just depends on who you are, who's building it, and that will determine kind of how long it takes and sometimes how much it costs. China is leading the way by, I think, every category. It takes the United States and the European Union a very long time to build extra high voltage transmission lines. I think in 2023 or 2022, we built less than 100 miles. Quite shocking and embarrassing. Nuclear can take quite a while, but solar wind are very fast and very cheap and getting the lion's share of investment. So you can see that kind of on the left, these mature sectors, alternative sectors, I should say, grid tech, EV storage, renewables, wind and solar, getting more investment. And some of the newer stuff, hydrogen, I think there's very interesting applications for hydrogen. Some of the newer nukes, coming into 2024 actually saw net less investment. It's just a little bit more risky and maybe takes a little bit longer just from experience. Again, not biased against nuclear energy. I think we're going to need baseload power in the future. Nuclear is quite clean. We're measuring by the gram and containing it rather than distributing it widely, hopefully. But it does take a while. And the recent history of building says we can't really model those expenses either. And so this is why investors have drawn just a really big box around solar, wind, and batteries and these combo systems because they can be built quickly and they're quite cheap. So no surprise, this has been making the rounds, but here you can just see solar and batteries absolutely dominating deployment last year in 2024. This is Bloomberg NEF, levelized cost of energy. Again, prices just keep coming down. Batteries really coming down. Offshore wind is starting to jog, as we know, maybe down in Virginia. A lot of progress there, but even fixed access PV is still inching down. So solar just continues to improve as a technology. We've come a long way since the 50s and the 70s, and thermal on the roof of the White House. And as the efficiency has gone up, prices has gone down. Pretty compelling story. And now, very happy to report, right? We've had industrial policy in spurts and starts, and we need all these electrons. It's the great electricity gold rush in a certain kind of way, waiting decades. And so investors have piled in, manufacturers have piled in, and as SIA has pointed out recently, we now have about 50 gigawatts of American solar module manufacturing, which is just about enough to meet all US demand. And that was the big news, actually, in Virginia, the Virginia Solar Summit. Solarix was our terawatt sponsor. We were quite proud to have them. Organic solar panels. You can go to the Virginia Solar Summit website soon and pull down the archive, access their presentation. You can go to their website, though. Really great story, American-made solar panels in Virginia, and a brownfield story. So that's their facility, actually, in this picture. And in the background, that's an old Teva pharmaceutical facility. And I remember the old Teva days. So there we are, taking a gray field, really, and slapping in the next generation. They've got a lot of cool stuff. I think I mentioned at the top of the call, they're going to have a recycling line to help repurpose old panels, agrivoltaics line, for Virginia, by Virginia. We've been waiting, and here it is. The solar story is becoming homegrown. Texas understands, really running away with it. They got a lot of natural gas, but they want to sell the natural gas to global markets and keep building the solar, although there was some big debate about that. But utility scale is really taken off. I think a lot of solar folks know and could be responsible for 1/3 of all projects this year. But NIMBYism is on the rise elsewhere, maybe not in Texas. They got some zoning advantages, but in Virginia, NIMBYism's on the rise. And last year, for the first time, more projects were rejected, denied, or withdrawn than were approved for the first time. So we're going the wrong way. What's happened? It's a combination of many factors, intense development pressure, pipelines, data centers. We've thrown a lot at communities in Virginia. And we've had some notable failures. It rains a lot in Virginia, diverse topography, very tricky soil conditions. And so we've had a lot of erosion control failures, runoff, floods, and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality has been all over this. And this is a slide that they made. We're just super keen on the stormwater issue in Virginia as attendees to the Virginia Solar Summit. No, we've been kind of wrestling with this problem. We have technology. We know how to build this stuff better, stronger, more resilient. And we're starting to do that. For DEQ, though, they had this compliance snapshot spot surveyed 39 sites and found 69% of them had some of these issues. But by the next summer, they had cut those violations in half, and a lot of these have come into compliance. And we just have to take this stuff seriously. And I think, as we all know from the news, that 1,000-year storm, Mother Nature bats last with the heaviest bat, and she'll give you a wallop. So we really just have to build this stuff as best as we can. But Virginia, unfortunately, they've rejected as much solar in the last 18 months as Texas will build this year. So, over 3 gigawatts. This is from Merrick Action, kind of a catalyzing force, lobbying at the state levels in the Mid-Atlantic region, and done some great reporting. This is a graphic that they made showing Virginia's patchwork of solar ordinances. No real siting policy at the state level. There are many efforts in the most recent legislative session, but it's really up to each individual county, and we're going project by project. And some counties have put in bans because they've seen some of that worst of solar. But the danger for Virginia and really everyone, all of us right now in this crosswind of exploding demand growth and divergence and innovation is if we go NIMBY now, we could only end up hurting ourselves. And my real fear is that we've gone total bananas, building absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. And I'm afraid we don't have that luxury. We've built ourselves into a corner. We can't grow down. We can't. We really have to build our way out because we are trapped. Just to put a pin in the energy emergency, there's Mr. Ketchum again, the natural gas, the foremost U.S. natural gas expert, I would say, built more than anybody, telling me I got to wait until 2030 or later. And then SIA has pointed out, with expected demand growth, how can we ever meet that if we really don't truly take an across the board policy and start, as we sometimes say, going to war with the army we have. We need to build the technology that is in hand to meet new demand, or the price is going up. So that's I think that's the strong economic case that I won't make here. I know it's being made on the Hill. I've been there back and forth. We're all seizing on this, I think, and hopefully, we'll just keep on keeping on. We were wrestling with this again at the Virginia Solar Summit. And I just want to thank them for letting me use them as an example. Thank you, Governor Youngkin and the Virginia Department of Energy for believing in us, believing we can solve this problem, and giving us a constructive space to do so. They let us bring on the American Solar Grazing Association because our recipe, we really think solar energy is a good thing, especially homegrown solar energy. Why not let the electrons come to us every day instead of shipping them from far away? But we needed this holistic recipe, solar energy plus economic development and land stewardship. We believe we can do it. We talked a lot about it at the Virginia Solar Summit, and we're going to be reloading and coming back in big style at the Solar Farm Summit, as past attendees know. Again, to try to answer this question, we have all these crosswinds. We're pinched by these different countervailing forces. How can we save farms, raise a new generation of farmers without raising food prices? No magic wand, and without getting pinched by these higher energy prices. We need a virtuous cycle or cycles or a circle. We need the profit motive to work. We do need to unleash capitalism and robust policy. We really need to lean into this moment to get America doing what America does. Natural motivation towards a doable effort that leads to success, that leads to us putting it back in. That's what we mean by a virtuous cycle. And farmers need it more than anyone, getting tore up over at least the last 100 years by that unvirtuous cycle downward. So here we are. Can solar save farming and local food systems? I don't know. We're going to talk about that in the future parts of this webinar. And I know we're going long today, but brace yourselves for more next time. Rural America needs investment capital. We're troubleshooting, remember. It has land and it can expand agriculture because almost every county has some agriculture in place. In Virginia, it's still the biggest industry. Solar developers have capital. It's a tsunami of solar investment. Still, even with the trade war and IRA confusion, I've still seen deals go through. Some of these things are still going to pencil, and there is policy to support at the state level if we're talking about Brightfield redevelopment and maybe agrivoltaics too. So that tsunami of investment needs land to invest, and it can enable agriculture. They can be mutually beneficial and help each other. And so if they can, maybe farms and food can help save solar. It can, by working together, we can resolve the land use conflict if we can bring both to the table to their mutual benefit. That's the hope of agrivoltaics. If we can resolve the land use conflict, Forget the trade-off, put them together. Agricultural production and solar power production. A lot of definitions out there, but I'm just going to call it dual use solar as a definition for now. Next time, we're really going to dive deep into agrivoltaics, what it means, how solar can do more. But I think about it, again, as an economist, as a brownfielder, as a global strategist who works with a lot of capital. This is a multifunctional development model able to leverage land development for solar energy to benefit agribusiness, local food systems, and enable economic development or conservation. It's not dual use, maybe then, it's multi-use. It's a platform. So we can double the harvest during the electricity gold rush. That's the hope for rural America. So that's agrivoltaics answers to the end. Wow, some of y'all are still sticking around. Awesome. This will all be available later. But I think a lot of our Solar Farm Summit audience knows this. But for you noobs or whoever y'all are watching on YouTube, this is what agrivoltaics is. It's using the shade of the solar panels as a superpower. We can deploy it, apply it in a lot of different ways, even on rooftops. But it's taking advantage of the natural evapotranspiration that occurs under or alongside the solar panels. Awesome little agrivoltaics 101, prepared by some of our friends at NRAL. Shout out Thomas Hickey and Al Hicks. Could be vertical solar panels. I think the future of solar farming is very bright. Could be just some of that ecovoltaics, though, pollinator habitat and grazing. These were the breakthrough American results, University of Arizona, Professor Greg Barron-Gafford. You can go find this paper in Nature Sustainability back in the day, demonstrating how solar really is a stack of energy, water, and food benefits. So in this nexus, everything benefited. The panels were cooler and produced more electricity. The food benefits were tremendous. They tripled the peppers and doubled the tomatoes, using half the water for peppers and a third of the water for the tomatoes. So here you can see, again, triple the peppers with half the water, double the tomatoes with a third less, and the jalapenos just kind of hung in. We've gotten a lot better and smarter since then. This is Tressere, France. These are solar trellises over a vineyard. The results from the most recent harvest in 2024, the Chardonnay, loved it. The Chardonnay plus 60% yield. Here it is, same vineyard. But again, don't underestimate the power of the microclimatic conditions under the panels. From an agricultural perspective, more valuable than the kilowatts. It's frost protection. Cooler in the summer, but look at the frost loss in the winter. They had this poor timed frost, and if you're in the fruit business, you know frost can kill your year. Under the panels, they stay a little bit cooler. And again, like we saw in semi-arid Arizona, the irrigation needs were much less, depending on the variety. It wasn't just this one. There were a couple in this pilot. What about conservation? I mentioned, you know, I'm a prairie boy. Grew up running around in the cornfields and the rivers and streams. We've lost a lot of prairie ground. I think we're down to 1% or less. And solar is one of the only things paying to restore the prairie. And why it works. So this is Argonne National Lab, 5-year study, Minnesota sites. The insect population you can see, triple. Native bee population, 20x increase over 5 years. If you plant the right flora, the fauna will follow. We can create bee oases with solar. This is one of the categories that's really taken off in the Midwest and elsewhere. And they're achieving similar results to the CRP. That's the Conservation Resource Program. We started out talking about the Dust Bowl, and now solar is fitting in and solving our conservation and soil problem. Again, by resolving the land use conflict instead of either or, it's both and. And maybe we can make different trade-offs. It's not all unicorns and lollipops and truly doubling the harvest. Shout out Fraunhofer over in Germany. They first came up with this back in the 80s, and a little bit less electricity led to slightly more favorable potato yields, as you can see in this old study. I love this article from Bloomberg. Japan's gone big with this, throwing shade at solar energy's new superpower. And farmers all over the world are figuring out how to apply this. Farmers are tinkerers, and they will use tools to solve their problems. This is matcha and mustard greens in Japan. This is raspberries in the Netherlands. This is the same raspberry patch. And as folks in fruiting know, you know, those polytunnels, you're going to have to replace those every 3-4 years, maybe less if you get ripped out by a storm. So this is just more permanent agricultural infrastructure that lasts. It's shade that pays and still functions. No surprise. Israel, semi-arid climate like Arizona, is really leading the charge on agrivoltaics. Shout out Solar Geek, another original sponsor of the Solar Farm Summit, coming back this year. Here's another great article you can Google for. This is PV and citron in southern Italy, which is on the edge of the desertification there in the middle of the world, and solar's helped bring back some of this ancient fruit. Oop, wrong way. What about corn? Oh, Dan, and some of my buddies, my uncles, they asked me about, I'm a corn kid, corn and bean country. Tasseled plenty of corn myself. It's a full sun plant. It can't thrive under the solar panels. Actually, no. I wasn't a botanist and I can't brag that I knew this, but it turns out nothing on Earth is using all the day's light. Even corn can benefit in a little bit of shade. And here in Africa, this project in Tanzania, they managed to increase the corn yields by almost 12%. Now, there was some difference in the cob weight and length, but the survival rate, net, we increased corn yields under panels in Africa. And you can find that study. Here's some pumpkins in Taiwan. Here's some wheat in Germany. Again, between the rows. We've got some between the rows projects in America. Shout out Savion in Ohio. There they raised, there's some hops. They raised them up 30 feet over the hops in Germany. So there will be wine and beer in the future, come what may. I love to think about these like open air greenhouses, super sized open air greenhouses. This is a recent project. Oh, I should put their logo on the screen. I apologize, but going massive on, I think this will be the biggest solar vegetable farm in Europe, going big on potatoes and chickpeas in Austria. Here you can find agrisolareurope.org/map if you want to click around and find some of these awesome projects. Over in China, also leading the way. I think we all know they're leading the solar panel manufacturing in the world. Did you know they're also a leader in deserts? It's an ancient problem. In China, I think almost 80% of the whole country is arid or semi-arid. Precious little freshwater. China has 6% of the world's freshwater, but 20% of its people. Those rivers are prone to flood. Here you can just see very quickly the availability of water, the consumption per capita rather. The United States, an embarrassment of fresh water on the left, and a thirsty China on the right. They've been planting trees since 1978. You probably know the Great Green Wall, the 3 North Shelter Forest. Billions of trees have died. Turns out trees need water, even in the desert. And so like us, like a lot of the world, they've continued to have flash droughts and dust bowls. And there's one on the right from 2021. China has a contemporary water crisis, really at the forefront. It's kind of amazing. Probably the most resource scarce major power on Earth, making do with every single ounce. And they have to, because 90% of the groundwater is polluted, 75% of rivers and lakes are polluted, 50% of the water in China is unsuitable for agriculture, and 15% of the drinking water is contaminated. How are they making do? How are they feeding all these people? Well, let's go back to those greenhouses. Controlled environment agriculture can be 90%, 95%, or 98% as efficient with water. And so no surprise, China, they're not self-sufficient. They're only feeding about 80% of China's food needs are satisfied by China. They're importing the balance. And they've been able to achieve this without water using greenhouses. You can see the before and after, courtesy of our friends at NASA and the Earth Observatory. Let's zoom in to that area of detail. Greenhouses as far as the eye can see. Note it's the scale there, 1 kilometer. So China is now home to 60% of the world's greenhouses. 60% of all the agriculture under glass is in China, because it has to be. They have been problem solving with glass in China for a long time, and now they're using solar to problem solve. You might have seen this in the news. We've got real terraforming at scale now. A combination of trees, it turns out, can help China defeat the deserts, push back desertification. They've managed to ring fence the Taklamakan Desert. I think it's the 2nd largest desert in the world. They're using trees, they're using solar, they're using grass strips, sand locking technology. Straw baskets. That's from the CCP. The marketing there on the right. Let's look at Ningxia. The largest agrivoltaics farm in the world is here, Western China. Goji berries under the panels, putting a lot of people to work. It's a gigawatt. A lot of berries. Going to speed up. Well, maintain the blitz pace. What about further west, Western China? There's the Longyang Gorge Reservoir, Wu Wei, and this is the Qinghai Province. There's the Longyang Gorge Reservoir. I think it's the second largest reservoir in the world. Anyway, the valley to the west, desertifying. You can see the progression of solar development through the years. Shout out to my team for pulling the satellite. They've covered the valley now and secured the grasslands in place, brought the shepherds back with their flocks. And so in Western China, they're returning livelihood to shepherds. You can find this research paper about that project. We can get into some of the reasons why and the benefits. Just another quick study, sticking on sheep for a second. Again, Australia, sheep leader. We're getting most of our sheep from Australia and New Zealand, but they found a quality difference in the fleece. So sheep like the shade just like you do, and I perform better when I'm a little bit cooler, and so do the sheep. You can find the detailed studies here, detailed results. It's about fleece weight and density, but also the grass, consistent availability of forage and other things. So Google for that. All right, coming to the end. Thanks to all y'all for sticking around, and I'll stick for overtime and bonus time. I think there's probably some questions in the chat. I've just been geeking out. So coming back to the rural problems, we have all these problems, our to-do list, our needs list, and we're waiting for answers. And I'll take anything. If anybody's got an idea that they think can build value or solve problems in our rural or urban communities, please give me a call. Dan@solarfarmsummit.com. I'm agnostic. I don't care what it is. Because if we have insufficient tax revenue, we need new tax revenue. If we have poor infrastructure, we need new infrastructure. And I want the next thing too. All these different things for soil exhaustion, we need restoration. Those mine lands need to be reclaimed. We have agribusiness exits, we need agribusiness entrance. The kids don't want to farm anymore. We want to make farming cool again. How can we do all this? I don't want to overpromise, but it does seem like agrivoltaics can be an answer stack. Again, not for everyone, not for everywhere, but we're just kind of at that menu level, thinking about how we can match opportunities with problems. And so that's what I think this is all about. And that's where one of the big thoughts I want to leave you with are the potential here to unleash proactive development. That's what I see as the real opportunity for agrivoltaics from here. We know it works. We're going to power forward, and leveraging the brownfield model, we can do more. So we can unleash this power of proactive pro-agriculture developments. And I'll go ahead and bother to read this for the record. The solar land rush and this electricity gold rush could empower local stakeholders, communities, and non-traditional development interests and traditional developers and private equity to implement alternative and integrated project models and economic gardening strategies. That's growing from within with the resource base in place. Putting the community first, conservation first, farmers and food first, at all, really limited only by our imaginations and markets. So I call it food shed development, or have. It's not, food shed development existed before solar, but again, focusing on agriculture to grow our economies. Out in Littleton, Colorado, they came up with something called economic gardening. Rather than bringing in factories or investment from outside, bootstrapping from farms that you have, businesses that you have, adding some placemaking elements, and you can do some really cool things, right? If your community doesn't have a farmer's market, you can put in a farmer's market. If they need a food testing center, you can add a food testing center. If the old town hall is run down, maybe you should move it over into this integrated development. And so this is a part of some of the economic development work that we've been doing. We know the kind of things that we can build, and we can do this kind of mixing and matching. And as applied to solar, this food shed development can enable this new kind of proactive model where we can now prime communities. The communities can prime themselves for investment. Maybe they know there's a farmer on the edge of town. It happens to be down the street from the farmer's market. He has a generational issue and he would be interested in taking the berry patches that he already has and putting them under solar panels and maybe expanding more. We can put all this into an RFP if we can get that far. It happens on brownfields all the time. A little bit different though. The brownfields are working backwards because they're already in place. But maybe if we can do this, we can stretch out. We can save farms. Shout out solarsavesfarms.info. We need non-food solutions. Harvesting electricity can be part of that win farm by farm. But I hope as I've flashed, it can be part of the solution to our larger community issues, our larger food shed issues across regions, across states. Agriculture is still big business. It's not doing well. It's twisted up by this unvirtuous circle. As successful as farmers are, they're trapped by how successful they are. And if we can help them diversify, if we can help them do more, if we can help them become part of the answer to our energy emergencies, I haven't found a negative to all that quite yet. So thanks for y'all for still sticking around. This has been part 1. In part 2 and 3, we're going to have some guests. I will do some more long form. I'm going to build out this maybe community playbook. I'll make some more cross references and some tips and tricks for getting proactive with those RFPs, making many analogs to the brownfield rules, showing some of those examples. We have a lot of resources available on our website. If you're not aware, solarfarmsummit.com. Katie and her amazing team, shout out Mimi, our lead researcher, pulling every day, get these beautiful reports, and we try to aggregate everything that we can for y'all and put it out there free to the world, because it's all y'all. Well, probably some of y'all still on this call, but so many great organizations. If this is the first time you're hearing about agrivoltaics, I encourage you to peel the onion. You're going to find incredible group after incredible group doing incredible work in all kinds of ways and in so many different forms. That is the most amazing thing to me. While I'm still geeked, I'm still talking after all this time, and I'm still going to be excited for the rest of my day, because agrivoltaics is as applicable and adaptable as we need agriculture to be. Even with all the danger on the board, we can build these microclimates. We can harvest electrons and not just keep farming, but build more resilient farms. Farms that are more independent, farms that don't rely on so many inputs and are insulated from inflation. Think about agrivoltaics as inflation insulation. So taking energy independence all the way down to the individual farm level, I think is maybe my parents and grandparents dreamed when they put 5 acres of independence in my hand. One of those famous pieces of classic American literature. But I guess I should stop there. I could wax poetic some more, but obviously I really believe this works. And if you click through some of these resources, including the past archives, every slide, almost every slide that's ever been presented at the Solar Farm Summit is still available on our website. Some big old PDFs that you can kind of click around. It's all tabbed in there quite conveniently. And you can see some of the incredible work that the agrivoltaics community has already put together. That's my email there. Feel free to reach out to me, although I disappear sometimes. It's a real renaissance and I'm trying to hang on for dear life. That's it. Let me, Katie Meyer has jumped back in maybe, and maybe
There's
we
a
have
few
some questions.
Dan. Yep, go ahead.
Wow, I can't believe people are still here. Thanks, y'all. Pretty good group too. Let's see. Yeah, but comment really about natural gas. Very, very expensive to build. Yeah, Mr. Carlos' class, Solaric's pointing out the delta, like what solar can be installed at now today versus the new stuff. We are talking about orders of magnitude, y'all. What reasons are the Virginia solar farms in Virginia being denied? Legit reasons are just NIMBYism. Some of it's NIMBYism. Some of it is just legit concern. There's been maybe some bad projects, and there was a solar developer who had a few projects go wrong. And the home of global anti-solar astroturf happens to be headquartered in Virginia, and it's made just for a very kind of dangerous and counterproductive conversation. Let me try to answer the other way. I've seen some of the best, I think maybe more than a dozen solar grazing projects go down. Solar grazing projects, not just regular ground mounted projects, solar grazing projects being rejected, including one of the best I've ever seen, Open Roads Renewables. Shout out them. They've never sponsored a show I've ever had, and I have no direct relationship with them. But they had a project in Fauquier County that they found a young farmer they were going to give him the land for $1 at the end of the term. And the land was going to be put into permanent agricultural easement, so farming forever. And it was still unanimously rejected by the county commissioners. Now they've had a lot of development. They I they just I don't Part of that is maybe sheep isn't good enough. People don't It's not a solar problem. It's we have maybe a fantasy view of what agriculture means, and they're not cursed to be an economist like me and know that those solar sheep are going to juice the local economy just like cattle, just like anything. We need economic activity, but it's a complicated, sophisticated world. The Renaissance is moving pretty fast, and so sorry, that's a long answer. Yes, sometimes we can just say it's NIMBYism and ignorance, but sometimes these are people pressed to make difficult decisions in a very complicated time. Let's see. So, okay, are there sheep grazing projects on solar farms that are former brownfields? Not that I'm aware of. I cannot say that from my own knowledge. I know that to be sure. But growing food on a brownfield is always something that's very delicate, and generally I would caution to avoid, although that's not legal advice. I'm sure it can be done, um, but none that I'm aware. There's definitely wildlife, though. Anywhere like there's some mined land reclamation projects, some Brightfield redevelopment projects up and down Appalachia I'm familiar with, where the grass starts growing again, and we have a wild horse problem in Appalachia, as you probably see. Well, they're not really wild horses; they're domesticated horses. And now there's this like big herd that roams, and so yeah, if you grow it, they will graze. No doubt about that.
And I'm just going to drop a link to the American Solar Grazing Association, ASGA, in the Q&A too. That they're great. I know somebody's here today from that, from ASGA and our participants, and I know they'd probably be itching to discuss that with you further, the whys or the why not, and where they are if we have them.
Awesome. Yeah, I see some great comments in here too. I see Virginia coming strong. Thank you. We're gonna wrestle the stormwater issue. Um, the good news is our problems are some of our opportunities. And it really does work across the same line. We messed up just right. And let's see, I think I see maybe a question here. Let me read this. Yeah, so getting started. Yeah, I'll temper my optimism, right? It's maybe the second inning now. Maybe the first inning of agrivoltaics is over, and we're just haven't seen the kind of scale, the unanimity of scale. It's more pockets and bursts. So in Texas, for example, they're leading all installations, and no surprise, they're leading solar grazing. And unfortunately, like each state policy is really going to make a difference to the market, each food shed. The prices are going to be different. So we already see just huge divergence between even lawnmower rates that the O&M teams are expected to pay in say Virginia versus California versus Wisconsin and Texas. And so no one answer, and hustle is always the right answer, as one of my mentors used to say. And personal relationships. So we're throwing a big party and hope everybody brings their business cards ready to shake hands and connect to the right person too. There's free farming passes. Shout out American Farmland Trust for making more free passes for farmers available this year. If you can get to Chicago, great place to meet. And I might not have the great answer for a new solar grazer who wants to get into solar grazing, but I know that Solar Rancher nominee J.R. Howard would be happy to talk to you. One of our collaborative leaders in this space. Maybe he's got the tip or the trick um, that can give you a leg up. But I think it's just like other things, and I wish you all the best of success. Fingers crossed. Watch though, and I think going all in, you got to work backwards, right? Like you can get everything right but the money part, and then you're still done. Um, so yeah, go with caution. Watch this space, and learn. ASGA, American Solar Grazing Association, solargrazing.org has a tremendous amount of resources on its website. They'll be at the Solar Farm Summit. There will be a solar grazing track, including the 101 stuff, including advanced stuff. I think we're going to have solar grazing 400 or something like that this year. And I think I'm way over time. Katie, what'd I miss?
Nothing, just if in a few moments the Agrivoltaics Awards finalists will be live. It's just publishing right now. So please go check that out. There's the link in the chat. Refresh it if you go to it because it's still publishing right now. And I'm gonna go through and double check a lot of links because this is the first time the pages are live. So there might be a few broken links in there that I need to fix, but it is live. So it should be there. Hopefully it looks good. But the projects look good and the people look great. So definitely dig into the details. And we're so proud to have so many projects across North America, specifically in the United States. I think most of the projects for this round are not US based, but it's hard to believe, but we have a ton. So see it, believe it. And sorry, I'll pass back to you, Dan, but there's the link in the chat.
Thanks, Katie.
Let me just confirm that it's look good. Refresh your page.
Thanks to the Solar Farm Summit team, the Virginia Solar Summit team. It's actually the same. Thanks again to everyone, all the professionals, all the advocates, all our lawmakers, our policymakers, all three branches, our military heroes. We're all in this together. And the kids, thanks to if there's a kid watching, or if it's your kid who's plugged into the design competition, thank you. I think I'll stop with the future. It's brighter than ever because I see the twinkle in their eye. The kids could get really excited about all this electricity on the farm, all the amazing innovations that are coming down that lane of the technology tree. And I don't know for sure. I'm just a hardware guy. I'm an old dumb lawyer, I guess. Planetary janitor, I like to joke. But I do hope all this virtuous cycle does make farming cool enough. And we'll have our cultural heritage and all the little food sheds all over the world, Asia, Africa, and America. Everybody can hang on and keep farming, even with deserts on the offense, as it were. So thanks, y'all. Stop there. We'll stay tuned. There'll be an email tomorrow telling the whole world about the finalists and opening the vote. And we'll be announcing the date of the next webinar. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 months at McCormick Place in Chicago for the 2025 Solar Farm Summit. Thanks, y'all. Future is bright.